Earful Tower listeners, hello. What we usually do on this show is we do a special guest and we talk for half an hour, but not today. Today we're doing a special topic, and that is going to be the left bank of Paris. So, what is the left bank of Paris? Where is the left bank of Paris? Maybe who is the left bank of Paris? And what's this live show you got planned for next week, Oliver? All this after the jingle.
Earful Tower with Oliver G.
So there you go. We're not just having one guest this week. We're going to have several guests. I've gone down to the left bank on the red scooter. I've interviewed a bunch of people doing interesting things. But before we even get into that, let's just tackle this topic of what is the left bank for anyone who's got no idea what I'm talking about. Now, in French, it's called the Rive Gauche, which literally just means the left bank. And what it is if you're standing at the Seine River in the center of Paris, it's everything that's on your left-hand side. So that's 6 arrondissements, or sort of districts, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 13th, 14th, and the 15th. And it's kind of almost, that's geographically what it is, but it's almost more of a feeling. This is like that sounds very pretentious maybe, but that's kind of, when you think about Paris, the old days, you think of the Hemingways, you think of the artists, the Rimbaud, the Fitzgerald, Picasso, Matisse, all those kind of people, and the Latin Quarter, the universities, the old school Paris. That's what the left bank is. And I've got a confession. Often on this show, I make these jokes that I'm a right bank guy, I never go to the left bank, and it's partly true, and I felt kind of guilty about it, so I figured, let's dedicate a whole episode to this left bank. So, what I did is I took my scooter and headed straight over to the house of John Baxter, who is an author that's been on the show before talking about his books, and there's two reasons why I did this. The first is that he's got a new book out, which I'm actually holding in my hand right now. It's called Montparnasse, which is a part of the left bank. Montparnasse, Paris' district of memory and desire. So I went and met him to talk about the left bank. But the other reason I chose to start with him is because he's going to be the special guest at the event I've got planned next week, November 15th. I'm going to do a live episode with him talking about his book, talking about movies. This is a guy who's written loads of books about directors, biographies even. And we're going to talk about Paris. I'll tell you a bit more about the event and how to get tickets in a second. But let's just start off with John Baxter from when I met him. Do you love the left bank, or are you on the club of people who aren't so convinced by it yet?
Can there be such people who are not convinced of the wonders of the left bank?
Well, I'm having this intervention today where I'm just getting inundated with the good stuff. So first, just tell me why you think this place is so fantastic.
The left bank is the way Paris used to be. The right bank has become a bit too trendy for me. It's too Faubourg Saint-Honoré. It's too much the Louvre. It's too much the trendy restaurants and so on. Over here, you've still got little shops. You've still got bookshops. Hardly any bookshops over on the right bank these days. You've got little galleries. You've got the sort of corner cafes. Places that don't have to worry too much about making the daily nut by pushing you out and selling croque-monsieurs at high prices. So I like that. I like the fact that it is, to some extent, the Paris that Hemingway and people like that knew and lived in. That's a plus, surely.
So with that in mind, I'm asking everyone the same questions. I want you to recommend something, like a basic thing that someone who hasn't even been here before should go and check out on this left bank. What would that be?
Oh, it's hard. There's so many things.
John, you can't give me more than one.
Okay, fine, all right. Okay, one place I always take people is Place Fürstenberg, which is a rather quiet little square. Well, it's actually round, but call it a square, which is just tucked away in the middle of what used to be the old Abbey of Saint-Germain-des-Prés. It's a beautiful space with these three wonderful plane trees and a chestnut tree in the middle of it. Almost every day there's a Vogue model draped over the central light fitting because it is just so elegant. They made movies there. The Age of Innocence, part of that was shot there by Scorsese. And just off in the corner, where you wouldn't particularly notice it, is a museum devoted to Eugène Delacroix. It's in fact the house where he lived when he was painting the murals in Saint-Sulpice Church. And it's a beautiful little place. It has a superb wooden staircase leading up into the museum itself, which is tiny. It's just a house. But I just find it delightful. And outside, there's the buildings are extraordinary. They're almost like an anthology of all the different styles of buildings that were appeared in Paris over the last 2 centuries. And then in the middle, little photographic gallery, a little shop that sells delicious choux pastry filled with flavoured
Is this
cream.
all in the same square?
All in
Is
the
this
same
some kind of
square.
paradise in the middle
All
of the
in the
left bank?
same square. And just around the corner is the site of where Harry Crosby started up the Black Sun Press, which was responsible for publishing a lot of the most important writers between the wars. No, it's an extraordinary resource. It's just around the corner, and it's almost always empty.
I'm going to head there as soon as I finish talking with you, I think. But I need to... And you did kind of creep around the corner from your recommendation. I saw what you're doing, so I cut you off there, John. But I also want to ask you, was that your sort of first visit to Paris thing? Or was that more of your secret part of Paris?
It's hard to say. I'm so used to these places now. They're my backyard.
Okay.
But,
What about something a bit more off your backyard? Something else that's a bit more unusual?
A bit more unusual. Well, I suppose something I recommend to people is if they've got a Thursday evening free, walk down Rue Mazarine, because Rue Mazarine is where all the little art galleries are, and Thursdays are usually the night when they have the vernissage. So you just walk down there, you see a gallery filled with people with glasses of wine in their hands, you just go in, take a glass of wine, and mingle, and if somebody looks crossways at you, you say, "Could I look at the price list, please?" That's the sort of music art gallery owners love to hear. So you can get a sort of quick glimpse of the state of the fine arts in Paris just by doing that.
So what a voice, Mr. John Baxter. You want to hear more from him, you got to come to the event on the 15th of November. I'll tell you more about that in a second, but what happened is after I left his apartment, which is down near the Odeon, top floor, amazing view over the whole of the left bank, is I headed down to the Place de Fürstenberg that he recommended. No Vogue models, didn't see any models or superstars from the movies down there, but it was really pretty, and it was I later talked to someone who had their wedding pictures done there. It was a really nice little place. And lo and behold, just around the corner was Rue Mazarine, and when I was there, it wasn't a Thursday night, so there were no galleries, but I did stumble upon the Café Procope, which Corey mentioned in a previous episode of one of his Corey stories. That's the one with the Napoleon hat. I'm talking about the cafe, not Corey doesn't wear a Napoleon hat. But yeah, a little bit more from Corey coming up later, another left bank fan. But first, on my tour, I decided to head southwestwards towards Abby from Set in Paris, where they got their headquarters. And again, this is twofold reason. Abby's running Set in Paris movie tours. She knows all about the left bank. She lives there. She loves it. But also, that's going to be the location where we have the live event and mingle next week. Let's just hear from Abby first, and I'll tell you a bit more about the event.
Hello there. How are you? Good.
You were on the walk show.
I certainly was.
So a lot of people that listen to this only via iTunes, they don't even know who you are, because that episode never went out on iTunes.
I like
This
it, though.
was just on Facebook.
I like it.
Yeah,
I
it was
like
fun.
it. Kind of incognito. Hiding around.
4,000 viewers don't think you're
Yeah, and you
incognito.
didn't even tell me how, many people were. I would have brushed my hair. My mom went crazy.
My mom went crazy too. I didn't brush my hair. But
It's a hard life.
We didn't come here to discuss hair
Hair,
tips.
no.
No, we came to discuss the left bank, and I'm soaking it all up today.
Well, you should.
Yeah.
The left bank is the best.
Why?
It's
So-
underappreciated.
Why is it
especially by you.
underappreciated? Yeah. I don't pretend that you listen to the
Because people
podcast,
think
Abby.
it's boring, but it's not boring at all. It's typical Paris, cozy.
And so for the
It's
people...
not the cool trendy part, but it's renovating
probably
at the moment.
once was,
There's
though,
more
right?
galleries and
Yeah?
stuff coming.
What sort of galleries?
There's just all in this area around here in the 5th. All these businesses are closing down, and then new kind of young pop-up ones. There's a new clothing designer down the road, another new artist.
So for the people who don't know, you guys have your office directly across from the Notre Dame Cathedral.
Yeah, exactly. So the kind of, not the busy tourist area, but the kind of quieter streets behind Notre Dame. They're all new stores and things are popping up all the time. So I think it's getting a new spirit again.
Okay, with that in mind, I want you to tell me, I'm asking everyone this, one thing that you think is like a must-see. Let's start with that. What's one thing that you should see in this left bank?
Definitely the Jardin de Luxembourg, the Luxembourg Gardens.
Yes, the
with
huge...
the beautiful horse fountain at the end.
What's the horse fountain at the end?
It's like just beautiful fountain like they have all over Paris in Versailles, and it's got like 5 horses like jumping out of the water. And I want one in my garden when I have a garden one day.
Where is that? I'm still confused.
It's at the very bottom. It's like Point Royal.
Okay,
Port
cool.
Royal.
I'm going to go find it after
Yeah,
this.
no, it's gorgeous.
Okay, cool. I've been there loads of times, I just can't picture it.
No, it's amazing.
Okay, so a lot of people will be listening and say, oh, yeah, I've been there,
Yeah.
I've done that. So can you also give me a sort of tip for second-time visitors? Not necessarily a secret, but something a bit different.
The best kept secret on the left bank
Go on.
is Les Grands Voisins, which you haven't been to yet, and we need to go get a drink.
What is, you told me about that.
It's amazing.
I think you told me about that after we switched the camera off, so
and
you
it's
have to tell
only
again.
Ephemerals, so you need to go now because they always kind of push the closing date, but
Well,
it's
what
not
is it?
going to
What is
last
it?
forever. So it's a disused children's hospital.
Oh,
It's between Port Royal and Denfert Rochefort.
yeah.
Excuse my French accent.
No one can pronounce that
And
word. go
as
on.
you're going past, you don't really see anything. You're just walking down the road. If you're going from Denfert Rochefort, you walk up, and it's on the left-hand side, and you'll see a gate with security and people coming in and out.
But it's like a hub or something now with bars.
Huge hub. So basically, they had a lot of squatters in this disused children's hospital,
Yeah.
and they are going to redevelop it and like give it over. But for the moment, the Marie was like, "What are we going to do with this place? We don't, want it to fall into complete disrepair." So they put out a bid to all these different projects. So now they've got the coolest brocante. So they have, and it all goes to charity, the money, where people donate all their tables, chairs, books, seriously cool stuff.
Wow.
They have 3 bars. You can have like restaurant. They even have Airbnb, so you can sleep in a treehouse.
Okay,
And they
well,
have like little film producers, and it's a really cool, young, creative.
why have we not gone there yet?
Yeah,
Okay, next.
I go probably once a week.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
let us know next time you're going. I'll come with you. You made the left
I'm
bank
going
sound
tonight.
good. I'm on. Oh, really?
I am now.
Um,
I sold it to myself. It's so cool.
As for me, I think I'm going to leave you and head to the Luxembourg Gardens and see what's going on with the horse fountain.
And then the Grand Voisin.
Well, I can't do everything in one day. I'll do my best though. Thanks for having me, Abby. Thanks for the coffee too. So there you go. She seems to think that the left bank's getting trendier, whereas John Baxter was saying that it's the right bank that's trendy. Who knows? Who am I to judge what's trendy? Anyway, this is a good chance to talk about the event. So, November 15th, 7 p.m., 9 p.m., I'm going to do a mingle, 2 hours. You go to the set in Paris. They're going to roll out a red carpet. We're going to have 2 chairs in the middle, and for half an hour, just like a normal Earful Tower episode, I'm going to interview John about his new book. And if you want to come along, we've got space for about 40 people. And I'm selling tickets for 20 euros. 20 euros, you say? Well, let me just explain. Firstly, for 20 euros, you're going to walk in, you're going to get a glass of, I think, champagne. Could be Prosecco, but let's say champagne. You're going to get a bunch of nibbles. You're going to get automatically entered into a raffle with some excellent prizes I'll get into in a second. But you're also going to get a chance to meet John Baxter. He'll do some book signings and meet some interesting like-minded people who are also going to be guests. As for the raffle, there's 4 prizes. I'll tell you 2 of them now. One's going to be the book, obviously, the Montparnasse book. And another's going to be 2 places on a set in Paris tour with Abby and her gang. And this is like a tour. You walk around Paris. They point out where different movies have been set. Really cool stuff. Anyway, back to my tour of the left bank. I was getting hungry at this point. And I thought, if I'm going to be going to the Jardin de Luxembourg to look at these horses, which were brilliant, I should add, and all the pictures of all these things I've been seeing, the Place de Furstenberg, all that stuff is going to be on the Earful Tower, earfultower.com, so go check it out if you want, if you're more of a visual person. But I decided I was a bit peckish, time for a bite to eat. And if you listened to this show before, you'd know that one of my favorite cafes in the whole city is Coutume, up in Rue de Babylon. So I went to visit Tom Clark, who was one of the first ever guests on this show. So I headed up that way, and here's what Tom had to say. I'm a bit of a right banker.
Most people pretend to be a right bank, but it's just they haven't discovered the left bank.
Well, I'm not pretending. I am a right bank guy.
Oh.
I spend all my time there.
Mm-hmm.
Would you consider yourself a left bank kind of guy?
Possibly. I think I fell in love with Paris on the left bank. I studied on the left bank back in 2006. We obviously opened Coutume on the left bank in 2010. And I really discovered Paris and all its intricate secrets through the left bank.
What about the mice?
The mice?
Yeah, there's one there.
That's enchanted mouse of this enchanted garden.
Do you see it?
No, but they're friendlier mice on the left bank. Everyone's friendly on the left bank.
All right,
less aggression.
we came for tips. So the way I'm going to put it is, if you got a tourist here,
Mhm.
never been, give me an obvious thing that they should see.
Obvious thing they should see would be the Invalides, and especially the tomb of Napoleon.
What's the Invalide?
A functioning hospice constructed for Napoleon's troops, I believe, after the Austrian invasion. You have to double check that for historian buffs. And it's a monument to all the soldiers that had fallen, as well as being an active hospice for those that came back maimed and injured, psychologically and physiologically. And now it's a museum, a monument with a beautiful gold dome right across from Pont des Arts.
You know they call it Anva.
Anva.
Yeah, the French people.
Okay. Wasn't aware of that,
Yeah.
but
I like to share some tips.
not a
back.
fan. Even if, as an Australian, we do like to abbreviate.
Yeah,
I find
that's
that's a
true.
bit of a...
Your real name isn't Tom, it's like Tomolino or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tomalina Thumalot. Exactly.
Okay, and so when you go into Anva, you can find Napoleon's tomb.
Exactly. It's a paid access, but it's worth it.
We have time left, Tom Clark, for a tip
Mm-hmm.
that the typical tourist wouldn't know about.
Okay.
It can be anything you want.
All right. Well, as I'm a big food and wine lover, I would, as most
A wino.
a wino,
A foodie and a
I like to
wino.
wine. I would recommend a great place up in the 5th, just behind the Pantheon. It's called Café de la Nouvelle Mairie, Rue Fossé Saint-Jacques. I believe they're Monday to Friday. They do great natural wines, beers, great products. They work directly with their producers. Very simple planche, so charcuterie, cheese, a couple of simple meals in the evening, but just great ambience, great wine. You're in a very quiet, charming square. Just before summer, they have a closing party where they'll bring jazz musicians and people will be dancing in the streets. It's just a great ambience.
Sounds like the Paris of the
It's
days of yore.
Exactly.
I've got a story for you after you mentioned charcuterie.
Okay.
Once I was sitting next to an Australian guy up in Montmartre, and I heard him talking and I got chatting with him. I said, I'm also Australian.
Mhm.
And I said, what did you order? What food? And he goes, mate, just the charcuterie.
Ooh.
What do you make of that?
Charcuterie.
Charcuterie.
We do have a habit of massacring beautiful romantic languages such as French, but that's
And,
that's
on
impressive.
that note, let's keep doing it.
All right.
Onwards and upwards.
Exactly.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Thanks for your time,
Mon-
Tom, as
mon cher
usual.
copain.
And thanks for the espresso.
You're welcome.
There you go, another Australian in Paris with a penchant for enchanted mice, apparently, or maybe that was just my take on it. Anyway, Tom's going to be at the event as well. He's been kind enough to offer another one of the prizes in the raffle, and that's going to be a brunch for two at Coutume, which is some of the best food going around in town. Go and check that out. What haven't we talked about yet? I think you're getting a pretty good feel for the left bank by now. And so was I, actually. I'd been scootering around all day, learning all this kind of cool new stuff. But about this point, I thought it's time to head back to the safety of the right bank, where I had an appointment with Mr. Corey Frye here in the studio in the 10th arrondissement. So Corey, if you've never heard the Earful Tower before, he's here at the end of every episode giving a Corey story, a story about Paris, and this week is no different. This is a guy that does tours on the left bank. He loves the left bank. You'll hear it in his voice. He loves it. He's also going to be at the event on November 15th, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Set in Paris. And he's also been kind enough to give away a prize in the raffle, and that is a private tour for two of Paris. So if you want to meet this guy whose voice you've heard every week, now is your chance, or at least come along to say hi. So here's what happened when I talked to Corey. I'm now a little bit more au fait with the Rive Gauche.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you for finally coming over the river.
Oh,
that must have
man.
taken a lot of courage.
Yeah. No, you know what? All these guests have been giving me some great reasons to come back.
Oh yeah, there's
Yeah.
a great energy in the left bank that's pretty hard to find anywhere else. There's something about it.
There's energy in the right bank.
Oh yeah, there is energy. It's just different.
Yeah, I like it.
But in a way, are there really any of those distinctions anymore? Because like in the 10th arrondissement or the 11th, Oberkampf and all of that, there's kind of a left bank vibe.
You reckon?
Well, you've got a lot of young folks, artsy folks, and that was what the left bank was known for. The right bank is getting hipper in a way,
Yeah.
which is a good thing.
John Baxter said trendy. He said it's too trendy.
Well, yeah, depending on where you go, but then you just got to go a couple streets over and you can find a more rough and tumble.
That could be a good, almost like a motto for the whole of Paris. Couple streets over, there's always something.
Couple streets over. If I write a book about Paris,
Yeah.
and I may one day, but that'd be a great title.
Couple streets over.
Do I have to pay you for that title?
Nah, you're right.
Nice.
So I figured I'd ask you. I've been asking everyone to give me a main tip and a sort of, I said a main tip and also something a little bit off the beaten track.
Okay.
But I'm going to do it a bit differently with you. I'm going to ask you something, because you do a lot of tours on the left bank.
Yeah.
Tell me a story that you like to tell people there, and this can be your Corey story.
Okay, let's do that. There's something that I always show people when I take them through the Latin Quarter. There's an area near Shakespeare and Company, which I know a lot of you know and love. And just steps away, there's the Rue de la Huchette. And it kind of takes you into this strange Latin Quarter vibe where you have these sort of fast food shops. It's the place to get gyros and, shawarma sandwiches, and they're like €5 each. So it's, not very classy in
Just
that
to
respect.
make sure I understand what you're talking about. This is sort of, if you walk out Shakespeare and Company, immediate left.
And then
up
as you
through
walk
that.
out.
Yeah, I got
and then
you.
you're right in that the thick of it.
Bustling.
It's very bustling.
Yeah.
But what I love is that if you kind of block out all of the modern cheap food and stalls and things, beautiful medieval streets. I mean, that's really part of the original part of Paris that the Romans developed back in the day. Like literally the Romans rolled in 52 BC and they started doing two things. They developed Ile de la Cité and the Latin Quarter.
And
that
they
was
called
Paris.
it Lutece.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. And I did not even feed him that answer ahead of time, people.
You
He
know
knew
what?
that.
We've done about, 35 episodes now. I know a thing or two about this city.
Well, isn't that why you started the show? So you could
figure out
learn.
France.
Yeah, and it's awesome.
So eventually, when I figured it out, show's over. I'm moving to Rome. So what happened? You're walking through medieval
Yeah, so when I
streets.
walk through those streets, off of that street of Rue de la Huchette, there is what they claim, whether it's true or not, the narrowest street in Paris, with a great name. Now, back in medieval times, they always named these streets after random events that took place. So there used to be streets called the Street of the Hooded Monks, because there was a monastery, or literally the alley that leads to the girls, if there was a brothel down at the end. And so you can find streets that are named in bizarre ways because of that. So this narrow street is called the Rue du Chat qui pêche. The Rue du Chat qui pêche. It means the fishing cat.
Yes.
And-
Not the peach cat.
No, because pêche also means peach. Yeah.
For all you guys learning French, don't be confused. This is the fishing cat, which
Yeah.
makes even less sense.
Yeah, for all of you learning French, my heart goes out to you because we've all been there, and it's
We're all learning
challenge.
French, even people who speak fluently. That's
Oh,
what I
yeah.
say.
How fluent do you feel? What percentage do you think you're at?
I wrote recently a blog post, which you can find on the EarfulTower.com. There's 2 levels of French.
Nice plug, by the way.
Thank you. There's 2 levels of French. Those who have used the word du coup
Mm.
and those who haven't.
Mm.
I'm in the latter.
Yeah, I'm on the cusp of using that, but it's
That
still a
means
little
you're
bit
in the
of a
latter as
mystery.
well. There's 2 groups.
No,
There's
but let me
cusp.
tell you, for me, there's another word too. It's using voila, like throwing voila at the in
yeah.
random things. That took me a while. I don't
Yeah.
know if it was the same for
Not
you.
to mean for people who think it means like voila, magic trick done. It doesn't mean that. It can mean that, but it more as in
While we're on the subject, not to go off on this tangent, but there's another thing I hear people say colloquially when they're talking, explaining something. They say "tu as," like at the end, like "do you
Like
get
tu
it?"
vois,
You
yeah,
know what
you
I
see,
mean?
you
Like
see,
"tu
you
as,
see,
tu
you
as,
see.
tu as."
Yeah, that's
And
another one I've never said.
I need to incorporate that.
So we're in the same level of French. Forget C1, C2, A1B. It's du coup and not du coup.
Yeah, I like
Coup
that.
and
Yeah,
not to coup.
I like that. So let's get to the story real quick. So there's the
Hey,
narrowest.
tangents are allowed. They're encouraged.
Well, this street I'm talking about is actually a tangent, so it's very apropos.
Whoa, okay.
Everything's related, my friend. So this street, the narrowest in Paris, the street of the fishing cat, the name apparently goes back to the 14th century because that street originally had the Seine River washing up to the edge of it, and people would see day after day a black cat on the riverbank dipping its paw in the Seine fishing. And everybody kind of knew about this cat, but there was also a priest called Dom Perlet, and he lived nearby in the Latin Quarter. And he was accused of practicing the dark arts and black magic, Satanism. And so it was believed that he was actually transforming into the cat. Like there was an evil entity, one and the same. And so people got so superstitious that a few students from one of the colleges in the Latin Quarter, they actually went and killed the cat one day.
Well, you don't go around killing cats.
You don't go around killing cats, but they were so freaked out, thinking
Yeah.
they were killing the priest and destroying this curse.
So you don't kill priests either.
Well, speak for yourself, my friend. Sorry. That was not
Well,
an
you
anti-Christian
You
statement.
had a kind of demonic looking.
Isn't that? No, how dare you say that? That was just a joke, folks. Anyway, they.
Corey the priest killer?
So it's no longer the Paris Whisperer.
No.
It's the priest killer.
No, you need
Oh
a new
man,
nickname.
that's a tough one. I'm gonna have to work on that. So they kill the cat, and all of a sudden the priest vanishes. They don't see him anymore. So it's logical, right? And then a few days later, the cat appears again on the other side of the riverbanks. This dead cat. He's alive and well, and he's dipping his paw and he's fishing in the river. And all of a sudden, the priest is seen walking around from time to time as well. So everyone was convinced that they were the same entity, and it escalated to this point of, well, we're going to name the street after the fishing cat.
Wow.
Now, what really happened? It's hard to say. I mean, maybe just second black cat, and the priest happened to go on vacation, and it was synchronized with the events. But who knows?
Man, that's
you
weird.
may never know.
Yeah.
So when you see a random street sign like that, sometimes there can be a very juicy story behind it.
And if you don't care for etymology or juicy stories or cats, it's just a fun street to go and try and touch both sides of.
Yeah, normally you can.
That's
yeah.
narrow. It's like, I think 1.8 meters, that street.
Well done.
Yeah.
1.8 meters, about almost 6 feet
Is that
wide.
actually what it is?
Yep.
There's this blog, theearfultower.com, and I did a story about the best streets. It's
Nice
mine.
plug.
Yeah, thanks. And someone recommended that, so I went down and tried to touch. Being over 1.9 meters, no problems.
Well, now you're just bragging.
Well, that's
No,
not
but
really bragging.
I
That's
can
my
touch it as
height. I could do it. I could do it with my palms almost. And there you have it. Fourth and final guest. We've had John Baxter. We've had Abigail, Tom, and Corey. All of these people are going to be at the event. I'm going to be at the event. It's going to be a great way to meet all these people, but also to support this show, which as far as I understand, it's completely free so far. So if you want to support the show, you're living in Paris, this is your chance. Come along. All the information is going to be on theearfultower.com. If you want extra information, just contact me, Oliver at theearfultower.com, and I can talk you through it. But be quick, because there's only, I think, about 40 places, and we've already sold 10 tickets. So this is your chance. Come and say hello, and I look forward to seeing you there. Until next week, you've been listening to the Earful Tower.
Earful Tower with Oliver G.